got the weight of, all of the effort and time and expense getting over there, but you're representing your country. And to me, like, in my mind, because I wasn't performing, I was letting down like everybody who could possibly, I could possibly be letting down. And that on top of the leg that wasn't bearing weight and the rain and the hitting the car and just, it was a lot.
I want to hear this car story.
Yeah. You got to share that. I assume it was the other guy's fault.
Oh, no, it was totally my fault. Not even a question. So this was day 4. I had houred out for the second time. But like I said, even though I had houred out and I knew I wasn't going to get to re-impound again, I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to be known as the quitter. So I'm fairly off pace by this point. We're getting, I had maybe an hour's worth of riding, maybe an hour and a half left until I was going to be back at Park for May. But because I was so far behind, it was starting to get dark. And like I said, I was in a pretty decent amount of pain. I was mentally fatigued. The German stop signs don't look like American stop signs. And basically I blew a 4-way intersection and somehow did not see the bright red minivan that was already in the middle of said intersection. At the last possible moment, I was able to kind of like pull away from it. So I luckily didn't hit the minivan. I was able to like dive off to the left of it, but the bike just cleaned it out. Like big KTM 150 sized dent in the door. Like it looked bad. Like I'd hit it going pretty fast and I'm laying there on the ground. And there had been some eyewitnesses to the accident and they were concerned about me and they thought I might have spinal injuries because of the way I landed. So they were holding me down and not letting me move. And I'm starting to panic because, I have just crashed my motorcycle and now all these strangers are holding me down on the ground. I actually took German in high school. It was my sophomore year and I had like a semester of it. So I'm trying to remember the German words to like, let me up. I think it ended up stay auf. I finally was able to communicate to him like, hey, let me up. Like I'm waving my arms and yelling, which probably didn't help convince them that I didn't have some sort of horrible injury. But they finally let me off the ground and I limped over to my bike and front wheel was now a semicircle. One of the bars is bent way up, other side's bent way down. It didn't have the shifter was still on, but it didn't have a rear brake pedal. Like I just destroyed the thing. Like I've done some bad stuff to bikes, but that's probably the worst I've ever done. So I'm looking at it, like trying to figure out if I can even get back on it and ride it. And I just start to climb on it when one of the like eyewitnesses comes over and they're like, no, you can't leave. And I'm like, I have to go. Like there's a race. And they're like, no, the cops are coming. You have to stay. I'm like, oh. Okay, well, I'll just stay here then. And then the police officers come and their English is not really much better than my German. And they open the back door of the cruiser and gesture for me to get in. And I completely panic. Like I'm screaming, I don't want to go to German jail. I don't want to go to German jail. Like,
you'll take the American jail, but not the German jail.
And finally, they communicate to me that their interviewing software is in the back seat of the car. We're not going anywhere. They just need to take a statement. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get in and take a statement. Which, again, they didn't speak much English. I didn't speak much German, so you can imagine how the interview went.
Oh, boy.
So finally, I just take off my fanny pack, and I just start handing them things. I'm like, here's my driver's license, here's my passport, here is my race registration, here is, like, hopefully you can take all of this and figure out whatever it is you need to know from me. So I sit there and I wait while they meticulously copy down every detail they can possibly find off of all my identification. And I asked them, when they get done, I asked if I can leave. And they say, no, you have to wait on the ambulance. I'm like, I don't need an ambulance. And they said, well, one was called to the scene, so you have to fill out paperwork. Okay. So fortunately, the ambulance driver actually spoke some English, good English, which was nice. So I come limping over to him. He's like, oh, you were injured in the accident because, my right leg isn't currently bearing weight at all, hardly. I'm like, no, that was a different accident. He's like, you've been in 2 accidents? I'm like, and I explained to him that there was a race and I got hurt and it's getting dark and my parents are probably terrified and I'm barely a step above terrified myself. And he's like, okay, well, I'll fill out the paperwork and let you go. And the cops say they're going to follow me back to the Parc Fermé, which is great, except I don't know how to get there except by following the course.
Oh, boy.
So I get my bike started, and I ride off down the road, and they're following me, and I'm riding off down the road. And then I see the arrows turning. I'm like, well, all right, off into the woods we go. And then they're just left sitting there. I don't know if they thought I was trying to evade arrest or what, but I didn't know how to get back. So I follow the arrows back, and it's my mom and Dave and Jay, and I think Paul was there, your dad.
Yeah.
And they're the only ones left at Parc Fermé. Everyone else is long since loaded up, and I mean, because they've got to race again the next day. And, you know, my mom's crying. My dad looks like he's about to cry. Everyone's like, where have you been? And I'm like, I hit a car. And they're like, you hit a what? So I had to explain all over again what happened. And I just tell them I'm tired and I want to go home. And they said, okay. So they helped me into the rental car. We got my gear off. Halfway back to the hotel, I realized the German police still have everything I own to my name. They have my driver's license. They have my passport. They have my title to my motorcycle, my race registration, everything I have that proves who I am in this country. And I'm like, man, I hope they find me. I really hope they find me because I don't know how to get home from here. So they ended up at dinner that night. 2 policemen walk in and they go, is Rachel Gutish here? We need to speak to her right now. But it was better because my mom and dad were with me this time. And the policeman actually spoke, again, fairly good English. So I had to pay a very, very hefty traffic fine. And they told me to be more careful, and they gave me my passport back. So you didn't have
to pay anything for evading the police. I mean, you didn't. They didn't.
Once I explained to them that I wasn't trying to evade them, I just didn't know where to go. They were a lot less angry at me when they realized I wasn't trying to run away from them. And I think the fact that I was a 16-year-old kid kind of helped too. Like, I think they kind of thought back and they're like, well, at 16, would we have really done any better in that situation at all? Probably.
Oh my gosh.
Probably not. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, I tell you, for the audience, you know, and myself, if you think you're tough, listen to that story again.
I was going to say, she lost me when she was trying to push the bike up the hill.
Yeah.
I'd still be there.
Yeah. We'd be still stuck on the hill. But
yeah.
Were you at the 6 days that they were writing tickets left and right? I don't remember. I remember my dad. I wasn't at that one.
Germany.
Was that the same year?
No, it was the same year.
Oh my god!
On the bright side, I didn't get any speeding tickets that year, but they were handing them out like dealing poker cards.
Yes.
You'd walk because you had to pay the. It was all flashbulb. Like they had speed traps set up, automated ones, where if it detected you going past a certain speed on that road, it'd flash and take a picture of you and your bike and your rider number. And in order to impound your bike that night, you had to pay the traffic fine.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I really, not to speak ill of them, but I think they deliberately set the times so that they knew there'd be a lot of people speeding on those particular roads because there were so many traffic fines.
They all have brand new police cars now.
Yeah. The whole force has been replaced.
I think we paid for at least a cruiser or two between all the teams.
Oh my gosh! Well, and that's
that and your accident.
Yeah, that too.
You helped them. That built a new police station. Yeah, it built a new police station.
Well, I was gonna say, did you ever have to pay anything for that? I mean, besides the ticket?
The German insurance company eventually got a hold of me like a year and a half later. They finally found my address and sent me a bill for the door and the side panel and the fender of the minivan that I pretty well destroyed. I mean, we sent them back. I forget if we had to do like a money order or a check or how that wire transfer, how that worked. But we did eventually square up with everybody I caused damages to in the accident. So.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, her picture still is in that police station.
Yeah.
See, and this is the girl that ran from us, you know.
Yeah, if you see her again.
Watch for her.
Whatever I did, it couldn't have been all that bad because I came back in 2013 to the X Games in Munich and nobody stopped me at the border. So I guess I'm still allowed in Germany, which is nice, but
they're all saying that's the girl that hit the car.
Yeah,
or that's the girl that hit the van.
Yeah, don't mess with her; she'll hit your car.
As far as 6 days goes, I will always be remembered as the girl who hit the car. Like I'm sure I can come back 15 years from now and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you're the one who hit the car, right?" Well, yeah, that would be me.